All right, eighth graders, I hope you're doing well. We're going to take a few minutes today to go over the instructions of how our math class is going to go forward. And hopefully you have your book with you and also the instruction list that came in the paper packet. Our math class now is going to consist of you guys completing the lessons on your own at home and then submitting them in to me to be graded. Each lesson will receive a grade, and those are the grades that will be used to finish out averaging your overall grade. So I will not be able to give you a quiz or a test. So we will just be going by these lessons. So it's very important to understand up front that you need to complete every problem. If the problems are left blank, they will be counted incorrect. You also need to keep in mind that you want to get them correct. So you want to do your very best. Do not use a calculator. A lot of this work, I know, is multiplication and addition. Because we're going to be continuing on using formulas to find area, and then also today we'll introduce surface area. So do not use a calculator. You need to do all the work and show your work. If I do not see where you've actually multiplied and done the actual mathematical operation, then I will not give you credit. Do not turn in just a sheet of answers. Okay, so keep that in mind. And to help you a little bit, I will allow, if your parents are willing, for them to check your work. After you complete a lesson, for example, they can go over your problems and by any means that they want to use and see if they're right or wrong and let you know. And then you can correct them before you turn it in to me. So that might help us to make sure that we got the proper grades. But again, I emphasize, I need to see the work. Or you will not get the credit. Now, this is your only grades. So to be able to pass the course, you most definitely need to make sure that you finish all that. The other thing that's going to be a little different is instead of turning in your book, I don't want you to turn in your book, I want you to turn in just the lesson sheets. So therefore, you are going to have to tear them out of the book carefully. I know that may be difficult, but do your best to take each lesson out of the book so you can turn in just the lesson sheets to me. You can do that before you start working or after. And then another thing, if you do any work on a separate sheet of paper, please include that when you return the work that you have done. So tear out, include the work, submit it all to me. I will grade it and post it in my schoolworks. Now, if you have any questions along the way that you can send to me by email, feel free to do that. I will try to help you in that way and answer those questions. We're going to do it through my schoolworks though. So you may need to get your parents' help to log in to their account and then go to messages, compose a message in the to blank. Just click there, start typing my name. I will come up. Click on me, put your subject line in, and then start typing your question or questions in that email portion, that body of the text, and then you can send it to me, and then I can respond back and answer that if you have further questions. All right, so today for just a few minutes, I do want to walk through each lesson, just making sure it's clear for you as you work these problems to turn in this work. So turn to page 342 in your books. The lesson you're going to begin with this section of work is lesson 139. It is entitled More Work with Area. And if you notice the example problem at the top of the page, they give you a different looking geometric figure. But if you notice closely that this geometric figure is made up of two shapes that we all recognize. There's a triangle on the top, and there is a rectangle on the bottom. So to find the area of this geometric figure, we would find the area of the triangle, then find the area of the rectangle, and then just add the two together. Very simple. So the area of the triangle the formula is 1/2 BH. You understand and know how to work that. And then the area for a rectangle is length times width. So you, again, solve both of those shapes and then add them together. And that's what they've done for you there in the example problem. Now, in your work in this lesson, you have 4 different figures to deal with. The first one is just like the example problem. The second one is a circle. So you're going to be using the circumference maybe, or excuse me, the area probably of the circle, and you're going to inner circle and an outer circle. You can figure those, add them together, and get your answers for that. Figure 3 is a rectangle that also has another rectangle and a square inside it. So some of these you're really going to have to think through. What are they asking? What do I need to add? Or in some of them, you might have to find the area of a smaller portion and subtract it from the larger portion. So think through and figure that out. Then figure 4, a little bit tougher because we have a square. And then inside that square, look, we have a circle. So they're going to ask you to ask you questions about finding the area of maybe the whole circle, maybe the square without the circle, and so forth. So think that through. That's lesson 139. Now, if we move ahead with me to page 344 to lesson 140. In this lesson, you are introduced to geometric solid shapes. So instead of just a square or a rectangle or a circle that is flat, we now have a solid shape or a 3D object. And I use this little object to show you what I mean. Either way you turn it, this is a rectangle. And notice that it has a top, it has a bottom, and it has 4 sides, 4 faces. All these are shapes that we know. We can see that the top and bottom may be rectangles or squares, and definitely the sides all the way around are rectangles. So you're already thinking with me that there are 6 faces that we could find the area of to find the surface area of this entire object. So that is what you'll be looking at in the next few lessons. Now, this lesson of introduction shows us that topic and idea of a solid shape. Then it shows you all these individual shapes. So you need to know the definition of them, and you need to be able to look at them and say, hey, yeah, that's a square pyramid. That's a cone. That's a sphere. Okay, and a sphere gives us a good idea. If you picture a basketball, of course, it's not just it's circular in shape. It is a solid object. So that's the kind of thing that you will do in lesson 140. And then right away in the second part of lesson 140, on page 346, that surface area, as I use this object and describe to you, it is explained in detail there of a rectangular prism. All right? And we find the surface area by getting all the area of all the faces. Okay? So if we found the area of each one and we added it all together, that would give us the answer. But, of course, someone has gone ahead and figured out a special formula for us. They've done the hard work there for us, and we just need to memorize each formula, figuring the top and the bottom and all the faces on the side. So if you go ahead, on page 346, that'd be very good for you to read through that and look at that example. That just explains to you what I've been talking about with that object and how they came about the formula. On page 347, they give you the formula. Now, again, this is a review. This is not brand new. You had it last year, but want to remind you of it. So here we go. Rectangular prism, the surface area is SA equals 2LW plus 2WH plus 2LH. And again, that is simply finding the area of each of those faces that we've already talked about. There are 6 total faces, 2, 4, 6. That's how the formula is put together. Plug all that in, do your multiplication first, then add the 3 portions together, and you will come up with your answer. Now, there's also something called a lateral surface area. The lateral area does not include the top and the bottom. It only includes all the sides around. So that formula is a little shorter. They give that one to you too. LA equals 2WH plus 2LH. So notice that in your work. The bottom of 347 has a big chart for you to fill in. They give you the length, the width, and the height. All you do, guys, I would recommend writing down that formula. Okay? Write it down. Okay, we're talking about a rectangular prism here. Surface area equals there 2 times the length times the width plus 2 times the width times the height. And then again, the last part, 2 times the length times the height. So you take your length, your width, and your height, you plug it all into the right spots, and then solve each one. I would write that down on my paper if I were you, making sure your formula's there, and then each time substitute the new values in, do the math, and solve it there. And keep in mind, surface area is like our regular area problems. The answer will be in square inches. All right, moving along, the next few lessons are exactly the same. We're just going to take a different shape with its own formula, finding the surface area, and some of the objects finding the lateral surface area. So lesson, well, still in lesson 140, I apologize. They include one more shape right there with that lesson. I thought it had its own lesson, but another shape is the cube. So on page 348, that's what makes this lesson so long. They're introducing 3 different topics for you there. Surface area of a cube. Now think about a cube. A cube is a square. It has 6 faces. Every face is the same. And instead of calling it a side, they call it an edge. An edge, same thing. So the formula there for this cube is SA equals 6E squared. Okay, that's our cube. Now remember, the formula for a square, okay, the area of a square was what? S squared or E squared. So we're finding the area for one face, one side, one edge, whatever you want to call it. It's all the same. And then we multiply it times 6 because there are 6 faces. Now to find the lateral surface area, real simple, it's not the top and the bottom, so there's only 4 faces. So 4E squared for that. All right, now we're ready to move to lesson 141. Lesson 141 and lesson 142 are both review lessons. We were building up for a test that you won't have to take. Aren't you thankful for that? We're building up for that. So you do need to do both of these review lessons. This will count towards your grade. Don't skip any problems. So the first one on lesson 141 is a general review. Notice we did have some problems with this, so you may have to look back, and that's perfectly fine to do. But the general review begins with some compound measures, some percent problems, all kinds of different questions. So you're going to have to look back at these business lessons and some of these other measure lessons to be able to answer all of these questions. So you're going to do all of that. Now, lesson 142 is a review just over geometry. Lots and lots of problems for you to work there, and you need to make sure that you work all of these out, doing everything that they ask you to do on that lesson. All right? Now, then we were to stop for a test. So lesson 143 was a test, so we move right on to lesson 144. Lesson 144 picks up right where we left off. So we've got rectangular prism, we've got a cube, and now we look at the formula for the surface area of a square pyramid. A square pyramid. Now look at that shape below. It is 4 triangles. Okay, you see those 4 faces in that picture? 4 triangles, and then 1 base, 1 bottom. And so we're going to be figuring the area of one of the triangles. They're all the same dimensions. Figure the area for one triangle, multiply times 4, figure the area for the base, and then add all that together. Therefore, that on page 354, you see the next formula. Okay? So again, this was the rectangle prism up here. Didn't write that down. Then our cube. All right. Then here, we're looking at this square pyramid. All right. Now, this square pyramid has the 2 different parts. So remember, our formula for a triangle is 1/2 BH. They just substitute in here BL. All right. The length or the height, same difference there, just substitute it in. We do that first. 1/2 BL times 4 plus that base is a square. Thus, that's why it's called a square pyramid. So the base, how do we find the area of a square? Would be side squared. Remember, we just said that up here. So base squared. Parentheses first. That gives us the area for one triangle. Multiply it times 4. Then we're going to square our base. And then we're going to add those 2 items together. That's all there is to it, guys, for the square pyramid. Now, also in this lesson, they give you the formula for the surface area of a cylinder. Okay? Now, think about a cylinder. A cylinder is a circle. Okay? We've got a circle all the way around on the sides, and then the top and the bottom are their own circles. So we're going to use the area formulas of a circle to do this formula. So on page 355, they separate it out for you. Okay? They pull it all apart so that you can see the different components of that cylinder and how to find it. So notice example A, they show you the base would be found by pi r squared. And there's a base on the top and a base on the bottom. So pi r squared times 2. And then the lateral surface area is found by multiplying 2 times pi times RH. Because the height of that cylinder does make a difference in there. So that changes that formula just a little bit. So down below, you see the final answer. Surface area equals there 2 pi RH plus, then we got to do for the base, 2 pi r squared. Now, students, you need to know each one of these formulas. All right, now I know you're doing this at home and you're not going to be tested over it, but at some point in your life you may be. So you need to know these formulas and be able to use the right one for the right solid shape. Okay? Now, of course, as you're doing it at home, you can look these back up if you need to. I want you to get the problems right. So please make sure you're using the correct formula. All right, one more or a couple more lessons here. We move from the idea of surface area. Okay? If you think about this same shape that we talked about earlier, so far we're finding the surface area, the area of all the faces. Now, guys, if you picture this as a box, we want to figure out something called volume. Volume is all the space inside. How much space do I have down inside this object? That's volume. That's what we're going to be finding now. And, of course, different formulas for that. Also, on the top of page 357 of lesson 145, there are 2 measures for you to memorize. 1 cubic foot equals 1,728 cubic inches, and 1 cubic yard equals 27 cubic feet. Okay? So we have that. that for you to memorize. The volume's a little easier for a lot of these, okay? So the rectangular prism, again, these are all surface area. The volume formulas, all right, are not as involved. So for the rectangular prism, for the volume, that's the first one you're going to look at. Simply V equals length, width, height. Okay? Length times width times height. That's all there is to it for the volume of a rectangular prism. Memorize that formula. Then again, pay attention as you're doing these. A lot of times with sharpening skills, they're going to say, find the surface area. Or then they're going to throw in one, find the volume. Again, make sure you're using the right formula for these. And then the final lesson in this packet of information you're going to do for me is lesson 146. And there are two more shapes that you're going to find the volume of. All right? So lesson 146 is going to be the volume of the cube and the volume of the square pyramid. All right? So just two more formulas for us to do. Okay? So first, the volume of the cube. Think about it again. They're all, the whole area of the cube, they're the same size. So it is V equals E cubed. Now remember what cubed means. For example, 2 cubed will be 2 times 2 times 2. So we're taking everything to the third power. E cubed is the formula for the volume of a cube. And then the last one is this square pyramid. Now the square pyramid, if you'll turn the page to page 360, you will see the square pyramid as they break it apart, showing you that it is a portion of a rectangular prism. And they have figured that it is actually, it's 1/3 of a rectangular prism. So once you've learned the formula for the rectangular prism, simply 1/3 times length times width times height. Okay? So, boy, we're going to do all these surface area formulas, and then we're going to use all of these with volume. Now, next time together, with our next packet, we'll continue on. We got a couple more shapes to do volume with, and then we've got a review lesson, and then we'll move into a new unit ahead, working with that, and I'll be sure to go over that new unit with you as well. Remember, if you have a question, send me a message in My Schoolworks. Do your own work. Your parents can check it. Make sure you complete every problem. Show your work. Submit it to me. Hope you have a great day. See you soon, we hope.